chapter 9, section 1. Um, Greek civilization actually came from two different civilizations. You had the Minoans and you had the Mycenaeans. These were both great sea powers that'll eventually evolve into this Greek civilization that you know more about. So let's start in this section 1, and start about the Minoan civilization. So the Minoan civilization is going to begin around the year 2800 BC, and it's going to be named after the legendary king Minos. The Minoan civilization is going to be on the island of Crete. Okay, so on the island of Crete down there, the Cretans they were called, down there in the Mediterranean Sea. On this island, they're going to grow crops like wheat and barley and grapes and olives, and they traded their extra for goods that they couldn't get on Crete. Okay, so normal trading there. So they would go different places and trade for things that they couldn't grow themselves. Crete has a lot of forests, so they actually become very good carpenters working with this wood, and they also learned metalworking as well. Being that they were an island civilization, they're going to begin shipbuilding. You know, um, they kind of move a little bit from farming to shipbuilding here, and when pirates threaten, when they become threatened by pirates, they learn to build faster ships. Okay, so they would learn to build these um, faster ships. They learned also to put a deck above the rowers, so that way anything that was lobbed onto the ship or whatever, when it hit the rowers, it would hit this hard deck that was above them, and they placed a wood beam on the prow of the ship. Sometimes it would even be covered in metal, as you can see in the picture there. So that way, if they had to, they could smash a hole into the enemy ship. Eventually, the pirates learned to leave the Minoans alone. By 2000 BC, Crete is the world's first important seafaring civilization. They're going to travel far and wide, um, trading pottery and leather and bronze armor and metal jewelry. The Minoan people were small people. They kind of have a bronze colored skin. They had really long, dark hair. They spent their time doing lots of different things. The men would farm, and the men would fish. They raised cattle, long-horned sheep, goats, served in the Navy, served in the Royal Guard. The women, they did a lot of household duties. They would go to sporting events. They would hunt in chariots. The Minoans did love their sports. They built the world's first arena. This open air arena, stone steps that you would sit on. It would seat around 500 people. Some of the sports that the Minoans really loved, they really liked boxing, and they really liked something called bull leaping, where a man would grab a bull's horns, and as the bull raises its head up, the man ends up doing a somersault and lands on the bull's back. And then he would do a backflip off of the bull's back, and a woman would help catch the man when he landed. This is thought to not only have been a sport but maybe some kind of religious ceremony as well. The Minoans are going to build a lot of cities. Um, their cities are going to be a little bit different than other ancient cities we've talked about. Instead of there being a temple at the middle of the city, which most of the civilizations we've talked about so far have a temple, um, there's going to be a palace at the center of the city. Um, there's no walls around the city. Because as an island nation, they're depending on the sea and their navy for protection. The largest palace on Crete is going to be Knossos, okay? Or the largest, um, not palace, but the largest city on Crete is going to be Knossos. It's going to be about 28 acres. About a fifth of the area of Knossos was a palace, though. A 5-story palace, 800 rooms in this palace. It served as a government building. There was a temple as a part of it. There was factory in it. There was a warehouse in it. The walls in the palace at Knossos were decorated with frescoes, these watercolor paintings that they made on damp plaster. The bathrooms at Knossos in this palace, they had bathtubs. They even had flush toilets, not like our flush toilets, but basically the waste would deposit into a drain pipe that water just continually ran through. So it was like a flush as it flushed it away. They had hot and cold running water in this palace. They had a portable firebox to heat rooms. There were multiple entrances to the palace. Actually, the halls and the rooms of the palace formed a labyrinth. A labyrinth is a network of paths through which it's easy to get lost. It actually means double axe. And so this palace was sometimes called House of the Double Axe, but it was like a maze. There were so many rooms, so many different hallways as you went through here. Sea captains and merchants and shipbuilders all lived around this palace. Artisans lived outside of the palace where they would do their thing. The early houses had no entrance from the street. To get in the early houses that surrounded the palace, you actually had to go in and out through the roof. Later on, there will be animal skin windows and wooden doors added on. But early on, the only way in and out of houses was actually through the roof. The rulers of Crete were called priest kings. And they made the laws. They represented the gods, and they would climb Mount Jucus to find signs of God's will and to tell the people what the gods wanted of them. They had many gods. They were polytheistic, but one of their main gods, the main god, was the great goddess or Mother Earth. This is the god that made plants grow. This is the god that brought children into the world. And they would have shrines built to her, these sacred places of worship. Up on the hilltops, it led to heaven. The caves led to the underworld. The shrines would have these sacred horns and a bronze double axe, and people would leave offerings at the shrines. There was a lot of different sacred items to the Minoans. The lily was a sacred flower to the Minoans. The king wore a crown and a necklace of lilies. The double axe was sacred. It represented the power of Mother Earth and the authority of the king. Doves were sacred. I mean, they flew to the heavens. All right, so when it comes to the end of the Minoans, it's not entirely known how exactly Minoan civilization ended. But what we do know is by 1450 BC, the Minoan civilization was on its way down. Some theories talk about maybe a devastating earthquake. Some theories talk about a volcanic eruption starting to bring them down. But what we do know is by 1400 BC, control of the sea, control of Crete is going to be passed to the Mycenaeans. The palace at Knossos was destroyed. Again, unknown. Did the other Greeks destroy it? Was it an earthquake that destroyed it? There's a legend about the fall of Minoans. The legend about the fall of Minoans was you had a young Greek prince by the name of Theseus. Theseus is going to be brought to Knossos. He's supposed to be sacrificed to the Minotaur. The Minotaur was a monster that was kept by the king. Had the body of a man, the head of a bull, and it lived on human flesh. And the story goes that Theseus ends up killing the Minotaur with a magical sword, and when the Minotaur dies, the Minoans' power dies as well. And that's one of the legends about the end. So that is it for the Minoans. We'll talk in the next section about the Mycenaeans, the other group.